All right. Welcome back to the She Thrives Influential Women podcast. I am your host, Lori Murphy, and I am an empowerment coach for women, award-winning, two-time published author, columnist to the Rochester Women's Online magazine, as well as a public speaker. And it is such a freaking wonderful day to be here with all of you today. I am so excited. I have another amazing guest with such an impactful story. But before I get into that, I would like to just tell you a little bit about myself. If you are new to this podcast, my journey began in recovery from alcoholism. When I started to work toward my recovery from alcoholism about 13 years ago, it really started the journey of transformation, self-discovery, and healing, which also led me to hearing my calling to work with women, guide women, to coach women through their own, struggles, through their own, blocks, to be able to remove them and to be able to help them thrive in their lives. And as of recently, I just want to let you know that I do have a new book that I co-authored called Warrior Women Volume 3. That book is available to you. You may find it on Amazon, or you can contact me directly to also access a very special gift that I am offering to give you a copy of my Rise to Thrive workbook, as well as a 1-hour strategy call to help you with your goals and get the ball rolling, and just some other really exciting things that you can continue to keep track of as you connect with me further. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, find me on my website. All of that information will be in the description. But do not forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode of this amazing podcast. And today I have Lisa. She is a wonderful. Elisa Allen is somebody that I am very grateful to have connected with recently. Just a lot of awesomeness in her energy and the work that she does. And I will soon be on her podcast, which I'm really excited about, which I'm sure she'll talk to you about as well. But Lisa is a coach. She is an award-winning business strategist, social entrepreneur, and advocate of global impact. As the co-founder of L&E Innovative Business Solutions, LLP, Lisa helps individuals, organizations, and institutions develop strategic solutions for business growth, leadership, and social change. Lisa's work spans executive consulting, sustainably projects and trainings, workshops, nonprofit development, women's empowerment, and global collaborations. Lisa has been recognized in America's Who's Who's and will be honored as the 100 Women of Color Award for her contributions to business and community development. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me, Lori. Thank
Oh
you.
my God. Yes, I love the work that you're doing, and I'd love to hear, more about that. But first, I'd love to hear a little bit about you. Tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, where you're from, all the basic stuff.
Oh, I'm basic, so I originate from Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Contextual background about who I am. For the past 2 decades, I've run residential facilities for children, women with children, men Section 35, and I am a therapist by trade. For the past, like I said, few decades, I've been directing programs, and in between that time, I've done therapy as well, and I continue to do therapy because it's very meaningful in between all of the other work that I do. I run a nonprofit and I have a couple of for-profits as well.
You're a very busy woman with a lot of amazing, things that you got yourself involved in. So, what got you? So you said you're by trade, you're therapist. You're in the mental health field. So what got you into that line of work?
My children, uh, and myself. So I'm a mom of three. My children some of my children have mental health issues, and I didn't know what to do at the time when they were younger. I didn't know how to manage them. I'm like going crazy, pulling at my hair out. What do I do? And one day, I sat in front of someone and I asked for help and they said that they couldn't. And I looked up and I saw their degree. And at that point, I said, okay, you can't, but I will for someone. And at that point, I went to the same exact school.
Wow.
I went, and at that point, I didn't even have an undergrad degree. And I
Wow.
went, yes. And so I went to that same school. I received my undergrad in human services and got honors. And I continued on with three children with behavioral issues, hospitalizations, all kind of things going on. And I continued on for my master's in social work. And I graduated the National, Phi Alpha National Honor Society. So I went into social work and I did that on top of directing programs. And one day I was sitting in front of a little boy and his father was murdered in our city. And our city has the highest rates of gun violence in Massachusetts, higher than
Mhm.
Boston. And I looked around for places for this little brown boy. And I said, oh, I can't send you here. And I'm like, I can't send you here. And I tried to figure out why were these services out of the area in which it was affected. And come to find out, it was because there wasn't money. And so I quit my job. I quit my job and I started a nonprofit called Those Eyes Can Heal, which was to support children and caregivers affected by a loss due to long-term incarceration, of community violence or other deemable losses to them. And it triggered something within the community. It triggered political issues in the community. It triggered a lot of awareness about it in the community, and hopefully it shifted people and their views about how to support the community a little differently. But it also exposed a lot as well. And it
Wow.
exposed why we have the problem as well. So that's when I went for my children, but I can only do so much for my children. I'm not their therapist, right?
Right.
And so I told my children, now they're adults, but I told them once they matured enough to receive it,
Mhm.
because at one point it was like, you care about those other kids more than you do me. No, I'm doing this for you, right? I'm helping these children so that they don't have to struggle like you did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's, my mind is blown right now with your story. And, you know, it's incredibly influential to so many women to be able to hear how you went from, you had no undergrad and you decided, I'm going to go to this school and I'm going to do the damn thing, because your children were your inspiration, and you learned a lot I'm sure you learned a lot to be able to help them through their struggles, but because it gave you more of an understanding, but it opened up these doors that I'm sure you didn't see coming to helping children in your community, which
It opened
is,
up a lot of doors for a lot of things, right?
yeah, exactly, because that's just the start
But
of
more,
your journey.
yeah, but more importantly, I think it helped me.
Yeah.
It helped me in a lot of ways better understand parents,
Mm-hmm.
better understand that children are humans too,
Mm-hmm.
and what that looks like, opposed to what it was for me and what it should be, right?
Right.
And that's why I do the work that I do, because I can talk to people in terms of the therapy part, and I can work with individuals and relate. And I think that that's very important for the work that I do in social work, is that relatability opposed to just that clinical piece,
Right.
you
And I
know?
think it's easy to forget sometimes that children are they're tiny humans and they're still developing, and us we as adults are responsible to being their guidance, to being their support. So as like you were saying, like it helped you realize that children were human beings. And I kind of want to tap into a little bit of that for those who might be struggling with that themselves or not sure that they do and they're just starting to realize it. What does that necessarily mean when it comes down to like visualizing a child as not a human? Like how would you perceive them if you weren't perceiving them as a human?
Mm.
I'm not sure if that question makes sense because in my head it
Think it
does.
does. I'm weird, which means fantastic, by the way, people. But
I know.
I think I understand, right? Because from my perspective as a clinician, you would say, well, you understand it that way, or you understand it as a, but um, and then what it's not looks like is that you were born here to do as I say.
Mhm,
You are a person, what I created, as if adults were God, I sit there and I say, children, between 0 and 3, I believe is the early intervention.
mhm,
And they say that when babies are born, that skin to skin is vitally important, right? And so I'm like, okay, I get it. So we need to further investigate what does this mean, right? And so for me, because everything is subjective, right? We only see through our own eyes and hear through our own ears. And so for me, that time is crucial. That's what it tells me, and that whoever adult is in our lives is either nurturing us or cultivating us to who we to be. And
mhm,
then you turn 13. Now I think it's like 8 or 9, but 13, we'll give it 13 years old. You are able to then realize you have your own opinion, your own thoughts, right?
mhm,
And then you become an adult. And you
mhm,
have to take what you were cultivated and nurtured as a child, whether it was good or bad, right?
mhm.
And that piece of independence of teenage years, right? And
Right.
then you're this adult and you have to decide who you're going to be,
Yeah.
and so it is vital that we look at children as humans
Mhm,
because those children are going to be adult humans. And when we turn around and we say, well, this person is horrible, or look at that person and what he's doing or she's doing, it is because of that nurturing and cultivating in those younger years that created who we are and the decisions that we make as an adult, you
right.
know? And then
That makes
sometimes we
sense.
just hope that we make the right decision even when wrong decisions were placed in our lives.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow. I'm just when I sit here and I hear about how it makes so much sense, when the younger ages of our lives, that essential important time to be nurtured. And it really is amazing how that affects us as we get older,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's phenomenal that the work you're doing it's got to be helping parents as well have that understanding
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
it comes to their children and what their children's struggles are.
Mhm. Mhm. When I do therapy, usually the most work I do is with therapy, with parents and their children, and now with the things that are going on in the world, I'm dealing and facing with a lot more with their children.
Mhm.
Children are smart. Children are very interesting. And when you're dealing with your own struggles as a parent and the children of the world are facing their problems as well, it's difficult. So right now in today's world, it's extremely difficult for parents to nurture their children when they're trying to nurture themselves.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I think that when I look back on my childhood, my parents had they divorced when I was a teenager, and I think that they were trying to not only deal with the struggles that they were having individually and as a couple, and trying to manage raising four very rambunctious children. When I look at what they must have had to deal with, what they were going through, it helps me understand that they did the very best they could with what they had to work with,
hmm hmm
especially when coming from their own backgrounds,
hmm
from their childhood to what they were raised with,
hmm hmm
you know? So it sometimes those cycles just kind of repeat.
hmm hmm
And we as adults do have that choice to be able to break those cycles and do things differently, But
Absolutely.
there really is a very pivotal and, connection to that, the nurturing as a childhood to adulthood and our behaviors and whatnot. But a lot of times when it comes to mental illness, a lot of times it has really, I don't know if it really is something that's related to upbringing as much as it is chemical imbalances in the brain and all of
hmm
that. And we can dive deeper into that, but I want to hear more about what led you into the work that you do as a a strategy coach, helping people with their businesses. Like
hmm
what led you down that path?
I think it's all incorporated. I was just talking to somebody about that, and they're like, you like mix everything in together because it's important. Behaviors tell you a lot about everything.
Mhm,
It could tell it, um, I for many years, like I said, I've ran residential programs and facilities and things like that. But one of the things you realize is that if you watch money, you can watch it move.
mhm,
And I said to myself, self, even though you didn't always follow the rules, you made
mhm,
the money. So when I left out of working for others, basically, um, I sat and I thought with my husband, I said, what do I do well? And one of the things I do well is I form relationships very well.
mhm,
I understand business and I understand it very well, and I don't even know how some of the things that I do know. So a couple of years ago, my husband and I decided to open up L&E Innovative Business Solutions. He's like a silent partner. He, hands over the checks when needed, things like that,
mhm,
right? And so he supports the endeavors that I do. He's a educator, so there's some training that he does do. But one of the things that I realize is that people believe that they understand business.
mhm.
And then they will question why aren't things going well. And
Uh-huh.
so one of the things that I'm able to do is to kind of take a look at what are your dreams? What are your goals? Where are you at? What is what does it look financially for you? What is the forecast over there? Is it rainy? How can we shift and move you to where you need to go?
Mhm,
And one of the things that I realized throughout the years through interviewing people that a lot of times people would come in and people would say to people, you don't have experience. And I would say, well, how do you hire people into your organization without experience? How do they get experience?
mhm.
When
Right.
did they get that chance to get experience? So when I started off on my own, knowing business, I had to do a big interview. I had to show the world that I have some experience.
Mhm,
And so I went on a year-long philanthropy marathon. And in between how, doing the work that I do. And I started working with major organizations, one of them being the Midwifery Exchange in Ghana, which comprises of Bay State Health Systems, Trinity Health of New England, and Bay Path University.
Mhm.
Um, they reached out to me and asked if I could help, and I didn't know what that would look like. And I didn't even know what the midwifery exchange in Ghana was, but I knew that they needed help.
Mhm.
And so I dived right in.
Mhm.
And I realized that I have a skill and they're looking for it, and I'm going to give it to them for free. And so I got them the largest platform in the world called Gyn Zone. It's for OBGYN and midwifery. It's a platform that trains the obstetric, excuse me, and gynecology and midwifery. And so in Ghana, there's a lot of infant morbidity. And
Mm.
they're looking to bring more training and more tools and resources so that these babies will live and that these mothers will thrive.
Mm.
And so now they have a pilot going on in Ghana with training on Gyn Zone that they gave to the midwifery exchange for free. So I'm working with them. I'm working with an organization in my community for women. Again,
Mhm.
so I've been on a year long philanthropy marathon for women and women's well-being. That's doing a grand reopening and working with several organizations to ensure that their mission is heard throughout our community and they know that this particular center is available for their usage. And in between that, we're working with I'll just say some major entities that could bring some extremely great gains for that organization to support women throughout the community. And
Wow.
I continue on working with different countries and sustainability projects and things of that nature. And recently I met with Gusi Tano, the presidential advisor of Ghana, on their 24-hour initiative, their
Mhm.
24-hour economy initiative, which they're working on to support the technology sectors, bring in businesses, investors and philanthropists, and along with their saturated market and trying to find strategic ways to do business and to thrive. And so
Wow.
one of the philanthropy work that I'm doing with them is helping them with community gardens
Mhm.
and to start talking about food banks and what that looks like.
Wow. That's just, it's amazing. And I mean, you have yourself involved with a lot of big corporations at this stage of the game. So how did you put yourself out? How did you market yourself? How did you put yourself out there to get recognized for this work? Like what did the beginning of all of that look like?
You don't want to know the beginning. Oh, remember now I must say that when I started my nonprofit, I also had the first silent march
Hmm.
in Springfield, Mass to bring awareness of this. And it was during the time of voting. So it just that, and I was trying to bring everybody into it, and it became very political.
Mm.
And I'm very literal of a person, and I was very clear that I was doing a research and I wanted to find out where the problem lied. So that triggered things.
Yes.
And then, it started off really big and then it trickled down where people were trying to go to different agencies telling them not to work with me. We won't give you money if you do. Where are you located?
Oh,
You
wow.
know, but people showed up. It was a beautiful march. It was led by a hearse. It was started at a park where shooting happens. And
Oh,
we
wow.
walked all the way to the cemetery and we followed the hearse with signs and we didn't say anything and the news was there and all you could hear in the streets was
Wow.
that's it. And we walked all the way and then mothers of children who were murdered spoke on the same grounds in which their children were buried. So
Mm.
I was ousted for a minute. And so I said, you know what? You can shut me up and I'm going to let the world speak. And I started a radio show. Yeah. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to turn my 5-year plan into a 5-month goal. And I did. and I just went like full throttle. And then I started on a journey of self-exploration, right? Because I realized I was having a toxic relationship with myself.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing. Look where she's at. All of these things, the coulda,
Yes.
shoulda, wouldas.
Oh,
No.
yes.
They say that toxic relationships were easy. I was in one for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I can
Healthy
relate to
relationships,
that.
healthy relationships are difficult. So when I decided to dive into a healthy relationship with myself, those distractions, you know, all of that external forces
Mm-hmm.
were removed. And I just focused on me because I knew inevitably that my success lies within me. And I define that.
Yes.
And so I did. And I knew that I can obtain anything and I can obtain nothing. No's are just a word, and I'm okay with that. I don't like to accept it, and I won't. I move full throttle. I picked up phones. I got on global boards just by, hey, do you have an opening? Well, no. Like, you're weird, Lisa. Who are you? And
We'll
now I'm
make
on
one.
it. And now I'm on it. I'm on, and I'm gonna put the plug out there. Wage International, they're amazing, amazing. And so, we sat on the phone for a couple hours, and now it's like amazing relationship. What it is about taking those chances. It's about digging inside of you to figure out what is it that you want to do.
Oh,
And if
yes.
and I would rather, we're born in this world alone. We die alone. We can't bring a hearse. No one can come with us. And so why not create this world while I'm here the way I want it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to be happy. I want to be free. I want
Yes.
to wake up and do the things that I want to do. I want to work hard because I choose to.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's the life that I started to create. Man, am I working hard? Yes. Is it impactful? Yes. Am I getting business? Yes, right? And
Yes.
but I tell people, don't be scared, because that's what I do. I help businesses, right? So I tell them, don't be scared to step out.
Mm-hmm.
Don't step out too fast. Fast money's no good,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and plan accordingly. But don't think because something didn't work out the first time and you failed first attempt in learning
Mm-hmm.
that you can't go back and do it again. You rewrite your narrative every day that you wake up.
Right.
Mhm.
I am incredibly empowered right now. Like the movement that you created. And, you had some pushback with that
Mhm.
walk that you created, but you're like, yeah, you can try to silence me, but not going to happen. And you just kept going. Like you had some major hurdles that you just pushed out of your way and you kept going. You might have got knocked down along the way and you just bounced back up with such incredible resilience and strength. It takes a lot of courage to do what you have done. And I'm sure that there were moments of doubt, right?
Doubts, crying, fear, but we're women.
Yes.
We're built differently,
Yes.
we can give birth. That's a lot of pain. We can withstand pain. We care for others. Not to say that men don't, but we're just different.
We
And
are.
so when something hurts me or knocks me down, fortunately and unfortunately, as women, we just have to move through sometimes,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yep.
And so I still am.
Yeah.
To sit there and say, well, look at where you've come and where you are. I still struggle
Oh,
because
sure.
when you deal with trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like grief, it's not linear. And
Mm-hmm.
so at times I'll question myself,
Mm-hmm.
or I'll say, I wonder if somebody likes this or that. And then I'll bring myself back, like, why do I care?
Right. Oh, yeah. I
But
have to say that just in the growing of my business now, it it's a lot to work a full-time job and grow a business and try to be full throttle and manage life on top of it. And there
mhm,
have been times where I have just been so exhausted mentally and emotionally that like I might crash for like a day where I just kind of need to like disconnect and just shut my brain off from all of it
Hmm.
and recharge. And then there's other times where I'm in those moments of doubt and I'm in those moments of, well, what if I put this out there? Who's going to get mad if I say this?
Mm.
And more, I'm finding myself caring less and less. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's like, who cares, right? It's almost like I'm constantly kind of pushing through something
Mhm.
to make
Mhm.
sure that I'm still showing up. I'm still, you know, taking the action because I want to be like you when I grow up, Lisa.
I'm every day I'm trying to find out who I am that day. Who is showing up today, Lisa?
Yeah, exactly. And I relate to that.
Mhm.
It's just, I think we are created to, and not to say that there's men out there that aren't created for resilience and the bounce back, but there is something that separates us from that. And I think it's because I think we have more to try to overcome, improve,
Mhm. Mhm. And I think now more
and
so than
especially in the world that we're in today.
yeah, I think more now more so than any that we have to show who we are, you know, and I think that we have proven ourselves throughout the years.
Hmm.
And I think there's more successful women. Men are trying to state their claim right now, but I wonder why. Are you threatened
They're
behind the
threatened.
you threatened behind us? Are we doing the work? Are we doing the work, right? But I
Yeah.
think that we also are still positioning ourselves. We're still
Hmm.
stating our claim.
Hmm.
The work that I do, for the most part, you would find a man doing it. You won't find a woman just taking the bull by the horns, picking up the phone saying, hey, we're going in and saying this is not right, or thinking of even further. And so we're different.
Hmm.
We're different.
Yes. We we really truly are. And I love that you're picking up the phone and you're saying, you're calling people, you're doing that outreach. Because I can tell you from my experience that that is probably one of the biggest hurdles that I overcome
Mm.
because I always find reasons to try to avoid that because of rejection, right?
Oh, I love rejection. Then that tells me who I don't need to be around. Mm-hmm.
And I love that outlook
Yeah.
because that tells me that, okay, that's not the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
The people that respond are the right fit to what you're trying with the mission that you're on and the work that you do. But I mean, there's definitely a lot of rejection, and I tend to focus more on that than the people that are actually, you know, excited and happy that I reached out. And yes, I want to work with you. Yes, I want to collaborate with you. Yes, I want to be on your podcast. You know?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I've had those moments where, like, even with Warrior Women, I was like low key in the back of my mind going, I really hope they reach out and ask me to be in this book. And I was like, just kind of sitting and waiting. And she finally reached out. And, Desiree Cruz, she reached out and she asked me to be a part of this amazing legacy that she's creating. And I was just like, yay, you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
like, I didn't, how many people out there are sitting there low key wanting to work with you or be a part of what the work you're doing or work alongside you and are trying to, they're afraid themselves.
Mm.
Not that Desiree was afraid, you know what I
Mm.
mean? I'm just saying, but
Right.
how many people are sitting there on the fence and then you just took that weight off their shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
I
sometimes I forget about that.
mm-hmm. Your podcast is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It
I
is amazing.
do.
I feel like anybody that can give space to be heard is a great space, right? And
Yes,
and also, Lori, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't open your mouth, how are you going to eat?
exactly.
Right? And also, uh, forming relationships is beautiful.
Oh,
That's
it
all you.
is. Oh yeah. The women that I've met just starting this podcast has just they've changed my life. They've impacted me in so many different ways. Their stories have just encouraged me to keep going,
Absolutely.
right? Like I can't do this podcast without women like you. I'll run out of shit to say.
Exactly. And I can't do my radio show without people like you. They don't want to hear me, they want to hear you, right?
But that's the thing. It's like you finally find the courage to use your voice. You find your voice.
Hmm.
And I never want anyone to feel like they have to silence themselves. So this is like a free open space for, because I was the person that sat silent.
Mm,
And the more I discover my voice, the harder it is to shut me up. And the less I have a desire to stay quiet because we have something to say. We have something that's it, we have a story that's going to influence somebody. And if we're staying quiet, it's could be detrimental to the person who's listening or wants to hear it
hmm.
because
Yeah.
they're going through it and they don't know how, but you had a way to get over it,
Hmm.
you
And I can
know?
say this, Lori, silence is beyond that story. I was adopted at the age of 3, prior in the 70s. So I was in a foster home
Mm,
uh, in the 70s as a Black girl. And I was abused every morning. And then I was sat in a corner with a book and some crayons all day. I wasn't fed until I was picked up from my mother, now my family, and I was fed at 2 to 3 years old, little baby food like this. Prior, we would go out to the backyard for a second so that they could say that I went outside, and then trying
mm-hmm.
to find your voice all your life, and then to just get shut down again when you try to do something else, right?
Yep,
And, I don't care about none of that.
right.
I have a voice.
You do.
No matter when it is that you find it, you found it.
Yep.
Oh, and I see your baby.
Oh
And you
yes, this Sassy, she's starved for attention today.
aren't we
She
all? Aren't we all?
But what she likes to do is sleep on my laptop while I'm trying to work. Right now, she's just like, somebody just pet me.
Exactly. And
Either,
and you know what? You're validating her right now. Yep, I got what
yep,
I need.
either that or she just wants her fancy feast. So she's like, Ma, stop. So, what is like, because we've talked about some pretty awesome stuff so far. And what do you find when you're working with people, like what is some of the biggest hurdles you're finding other people are trying to move through that you're able to guide them through?
Um, Beyond their mean,
Mm,
creating narratives that don't exist, having extreme relationships with Chat GPT and not paying attention to what it is, and so what I see the struggle right now is the economy
mm,
and the uncertainty of people in their businesses, whether they're nonprofits, whether they're clinics and insurance, there's uncertainties, right?
yes.
And then how do you navigate that? So that's what I'm seeing a lot of, and sitting down and pulling those projections and forecasting the losses that could possibly happen. But I feel that a lot of people live beyond their means, like they have this dream
Hmm.
and they want one thing, and then they find out that I'm not even near it.
Yeah.
And then I think that becomes the fail because they
Hmm.
give up, because they never made a true plan in the beginning. They didn't, the losses and the gains. They didn't look at the risk.
Hmm.
But right now it's definitely the economy. It's definitely the uncertainty of the stock market. It's the definitely the uncertainty of the losses of the federal jobs,
Yeah.
because those are all attached to it.
Hmm.
Just in our city alone, it's much smaller than Boston. The whole Massachusetts had over $100 million taken away in Department of Education. And our
Jeez.
town had $47 million of it. So that somebody's after somebody there. Somebody did something they shouldn't have. And so $47 million from the school. But what I say to people is when you see things like this is my free advice to the world. When you see things like this,
Uh,
this is opportunity. Because when things are going down, they're major institutions, major entities, major corporations, big infrastructures. Even farming is a big infrastructure, right?
hmm.
And so they're like losing their businesses. Small businesses, hello, where are you? You come at a much cheaper price. Some of you farm in your backyards, right? You don't need that land that you're having to lease. You don't have to, you have rain buckets. Maybe you're not utilizing so much water. Maybe you're doing community gardens and then selling it together to the schools and the grocery stores that no longer can afford those imports that are coming in, right?
Yes.
So it's about thinking strategically and, don't look at things as losses and fails. Don't get down or you will just stay there. Think about the opportunities that lie in front of you and grab them. Find out where
Yes.
you can be placed and exist in that and then do it.
Yeah. I can
Hmm.
say that this is helpful to me personally because I have had those fears. I'm a one person show over here and I'm in the very beginning stages of my business and I have been sitting here with that fear of am I not going to be able to go forward, because of the economy and the way things are going. It has been a huge concern to the point where it has disrupted me at night trying to sleep, and it's on the back of my mind all through the day.
Hmm.
But, I was telling myself something very, the other day where it's just like, you're not there yet.
Hmm.
This is not the time to stop. This is
Hmm.
not the time to get silent. This is the time to keep
Hmm.
showing up because, you know, we have no control over what's happening externally,
Right.
but we could certainly control our end and what we do.
Hmm.
And in the long run, it might take a little longer to get to your goal, but in the long run, I truly believe it'll happen. It'll get there. And, you know, it'll it'll pay it for itself in the end, right? Like whether it's internally, I'm not just talking financially here, I'm talking all across the board, is I have a mission, stay on it and use the opportunities,
Hmm. Oh,
you
and when we
know?
get off of this, you will have some more. Yes, because I've thought of some. So when we get off of this, you're going to have some more. Yeah.
Oh,
Women together, we strengthen the world. We empower the world
we
together.
do. We
Some
do.
would believe that we should stand alone and, oh, look at me and look at what I'm. You need someone. We need each other.
We do. We do. And I know that it's that circle of women that, I continue to meet who I've been connected to, just being able to have that support has kept me uplifted when I could very easily have gone down a slippery slope of, some depression and because of the fear of things that have not even happened.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it's those mental projections,
Hmm.
which is a slippery slope because you might end up creating that
Yeah. Yeah.
without even intentionally doing it
Hmm.
because the mind is a powerful thing.
Hmm. And it's just that. It's
Yeah.
the mind. And you have control of that.
Yeah. Our brains really don't know what's going on in the world. So if we
Right.
keep telling ourselves that, all is good, all is well, and you know what I mean, like we're successful and you know what I mean, opportunities are going to keep coming. If we keep telling ourselves the positive things, our
hmm
mind is going to believe that.
hmm hmm
I
I
I wholeheartedly believe that.
hmm I think it's like a child, you know, your parents say stop before you fall. And you
Hmm.
just keep doing it anyways, and you fall, and they're like, stop, you're gonna hurt yourself. And you're like, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm not, it's hurting you to watch me do this, but it's not hurting me, and and I'm gonna have to find some things out on my own.
We have to hurt a little in order to learn, I think. And I was always the person, even from a small child, had to learn things the hard way. My mom would tell me, don't touch the hot stove,
Yes.
and I'd walk right over,
Yep.
put my hand right on it, and that's how I learned. Oh, yeah, ouch.
Yeah, mine was I needed to touch it again because that first time it hurt. Maybe it's not going to do it the same way the second time, right?
No, that's just the definition of insanity.
Yes. Expecting the same thing, over doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right?
Yes. Yes, that was my life for a long time. It's like, how many times can you keep doing that before you realize it's not working for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh gosh, it's just, you know, I feel like we could keep going deeper into so many more different things, like, 'cause this conversation is just, it's flowing so beautifully, but unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we'll have to bring you back. But or we can also keep this conversation going when I'm on your show.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about you on my show. Yes, absolutely.
Oh boy. I'm
It's all
just
about
kidding.
all about you.
Oh my goodness. Lisa, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Oh my goodness. I have the most catchiest phrase, the journey to my cup. I started that initiative because I believe that you need to fill your own cup up before you can do anything for anybody else. So they could find me for anything on www.thejourneytomycup.com.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, so they could find the radio show on there. They could find my for-profit with the different coachings and different services. I have a referral bonus program on there as well, where people, if they refer, they can make a percentage as well. And there's some other things and resources on there as well. So thejourneytomycup.com, you can't go wrong with that.
Oh, thank you so much. And please have people reach out to Lisa because you want to know her. And if there's any way that I can be of service in your journey and you want to connect with me, you can find me on my website, www.lauriemurphycoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook, Lori A. Murphy, Empowerment Coach for Women. I do have a free Facebook community called She Thrives Together that I would love to have you ladies join. So please, I will put all the links in the description of this podcast. Go to the links and send me requests, connect with Lisa, and we are here for you. Lisa, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you
today.
so
I,
much,
I,
Lori.
I just so much, I enjoyed this so much.
Thank you.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
goodness. And until next time, let go of fear and let your spirit shine.